Welcome to Karen Stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to never miss a crazy story. Let's dive in.
I should have known the day was going to be a disaster the moment I stepped outside and saw the sky an eerie shade of yellow-gray, like the universe itself was bracing for something ridiculous. But did I listen to my gut? No. Instead, I grabbed my towel, my book, and a tall glass of iced tea and settled into my backyard paradise, ready for an afternoon of uninterrupted peace by my pool. I barely had time to turn a page before I sensed that unmistakable presence, like a ripple of chaos disturbing the air. A shadow loomed over my fence. At first, I thought it was a bird, maybe a stray cat, but no. As I turned my head, I locked eyes with something far worse. Her, a woman with bleached blonde hair, oversized sunglasses, and the unmistakable aura of someone who had never heard the word no before. She stood on the other side of my fence, her manicured nails tapping against the wood as if I had invited her over for a chat. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice the perfect blend of condescension and unwarranted familiarity. "My son wants to swim." For a second, I thought she was joking. I blinked at her, waiting for some kind of punchline. None came, just the expectant raise of her eyebrows, the impatient tapping of her fingers. "That's nice," I said slowly, confused. "Yes, it is," she continued, as if we were already in agreement. "But the lake is too cold today, and I told him he could swim here instead." My brain short-circuited. "I'm sorry, what? Your pool? My son wants to use it." I sat up, adjusting my sunglasses to make sure I was, in fact, looking at a real person and not some kind of fever dream manifestation of entitlement. "This is my property," I said, emphasizing every word carefully, just in case she was suffering from some sort of selective hearing loss. "My private pool." She rolled her eyes like I had just told her the sky was blue. "Obviously," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "But it's just for a little while. He won't be a bother." I laughed, an incredulous, bewildered sound that came out more like a choke. "No, absolutely not. You can't just—" "Oh, come on," she snapped, her cheery act dissolving in an instant. "It's just a pool. It's not like you're even using it properly." Using it properly? What did that even mean? Was there some kind of government-mandated swim quota I wasn't aware of? "No means no," I said firmly, standing up now. "I don't let strangers into my yard, and I sure as hell don't let them into my pool." At that moment, I heard a splash. My blood went cold. I turned my head, and there he was, her kid, flailing around in the deep end of my pool like a carefree otter. The audacity! I hadn't even seen him slip in. I turned back to her, utterly flabbergasted. "Is he? How? You?" Words failed me. She just smirked. "Oh, see? He's already in. No harm, no foul." Oh, there was about to be foul. Plenty of foul. "Get him out. Now." I was practically shaking with rage, but she had the nerve to look offended. "Wow, you don't have to be so rude," she said, folding her arms. "He's just a child. Let him have some fun. I don't care if he's the Crown Prince of Norway. Get him out on now." "Or what?" she smirked. "You going to call the police on a kid? How cruel." I was about to lose my mind. "I'll give you exactly 30 seconds before I do, yes." Her expression darkened. "You wouldn't." I pulled out my phone, my finger hovering over the dial pad. "Try me." Her face twitched, and she spun toward the pool. "Honey, come on out," she called, though her voice lacked any real urgency. The kid groaned, slapping the water in protest. "Now, sweetie, the mean man doesn't know how to share." Mean man? Oh, she was lucky I didn't chuck her sunglasses straight into the water. Finally, the kid climbed out, dripping wet, and stood sulking next to her. She huffed dramatically, as if I had just asked her to donate a kidney. "I don't see what the big deal is," she muttered, grabbing a towel from my chair, the audacity, and wrapping it around her son. "It's not like you're letting anyone else use it. You could be a little more generous." I was done. Off my property, now. She gave me one last look, then flipped her hair over her shoulder and stalked away, dragging her son behind her like some kind of entitled spectre of doom. Just before she disappeared down the street, she threw a final, venomous glance my way. "You should be more neighborly." I stood there, gripping my phone so tightly my fingers ached. The audacity. The sheer, mind-melting arrogance of it all. As soon as I was sure she was gone, I let out a deep breath and turned toward my pool. There, floating serenely in the water, was my favorite hat, the one I had left on my chair, now soaked beyond repair. I stared at it, my eye twitching, before turning back toward my house. That was it. Cameras, bar motion sensors, barbed wire if necessary. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I should have known it wouldn't end there. The moment that woman stormed off with her soaked, sulking child, I naively thought the nightmare was over. That maybe, just maybe, she'd feel a sliver of embarrassment for trespassing on my property, using my pool without permission, and having the audacity to act like I was the villain. I thought perhaps she'd slink away, never to darken my fence line again. I was a fool. It started small, harmless even. The next morning, I found my garbage can tipped over, its contents strewn across my driveway. At first, I chalked it up to raccoons or a particularly aggressive gust of wind. But then, the next day, the same thing happened. And the day after that, and the day after that. Every morning, without fail, my trash was overturned, my driveway littered with coffee grounds and crumpled receipts. A little too precise to be the work of nature. Then came the notes. The first was taped to my mailbox. Bad neighbors make bad communities. Share your resources. I laughed when I saw it, assuming it was some passive-aggressive flyer about recycling. Then I saw the second note, wedged under my windshield wiper. Greed is an ugly look on you. That's when I knew she wasn't just mad. She was waging war. And just like that, the universe decided it was time for round 2. One humid afternoon, as I was watering my lawn and contemplating investing in a fortress of motion, activated sprinklers, I heard it a loud, exaggerated ahem from beyond my fence. I turned slowly, already knowing what I'd see. There she was, Karen. She stood on the sidewalk, arms crossed, sunglasses perched atop her artificially golden hair, lips curled into a smirk that set every nerve in my body on edge. But she wasn't alone. No, today she had backup. 3 other women clones of her really stood beside her, each clutching iced coffees and exuding the unmistakable air of people who started every phone call with "I'd like to speak to the manager." They were all staring at me, their collective self-importance so thick it could have smothered a small child. "Oh, hi there," Karen called out, her voice sugary sweet, the kind of tone that precedes absolute destruction. "We were just having a little chat about community spirit. Were you?" I said flatly, already exhausted. "We were," she confirmed, nodding. "And we think it's awfully selfish of you to keep that big, beautiful pool all to yourself when there are children in this neighborhood who would love a safe place to swim." One of the clones, a woman in aggressively patterned yoga pants, nodded. "The lake is dangerous this time of year, you know. So much bacteria. And the chlorine in your pool, so clean, so safe." My grip on the garden hose tightened. "It's my pool," I said slowly, "on my private property. I am not running a public water park." Karen's smirk widened, and I could see she had been waiting for me to say exactly that. "But don't you feel a little selfish? I mean, look at all this space. You hardly even use it. Wouldn't it just be so much better if we could set up a little community swim time? Maybe a schedule? Oh, and I know some wonderful people who could help you organize it." My vision blurred with rage. "You're joking." "Not at all," another clone chirped. "Think about it. A neighborhood pool right here. You could be such a wonderful role model. Think of the kids." I was genuinely at a loss for words. For a moment I thought maybe this was some kind of prank, that any second now someone would jump out with a camera and tell me I was being punked. But no, this was real. This was happening. I took a deep breath. Let me make this abundantly clear. No one is using my pool except for me. This conversation is over. Karen let out a long, dramatic sigh, tilting her head as if I had just disappointed her on some fundamental level. "Wow. I was really hoping you'd be more accommodating." She turned to her little coven, shaking her head in mock sadness. "Looks like some people just don't care about their community." "Shame," one of them murmured. "So selfish," another agreed. I was about to tell them exactly where they could shove their guilt trip, when Karen clapped her hands together. "Well, you have a nice day, neighbor," she said, with the kind of venomous sweetness that only true professionals of passive aggression could master. Then, without another word, they turned and strutted away, their overpriced iced coffees sloshing with every step. I should have been relieved, but I wasn't, because I knew This wasn't over. That night, I triple-checked my locks, installed new security cameras, considered surrounding my pool with electrified fencing. And sure enough, my instincts were right. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of splashing. Racing outside, my worst fear was confirmed. 4 kids, 4, were in my pool, giggling and shrieking like they had every right to be there. Towels, pool toys, even a goddamn inflatable flamingo were scattered across my backyard. And there, sitting smugly on me lawn chair, was Karen. She raised her sunglasses, grinning at me like a cat who had just cornered a particularly dumb mouse. "Oh, good. You're up." I could only stare, slack-jawed, as she took a leisurely sip from her coffee. "I figured if you weren't going tosher out of the goodness of your heart, then we'd just help ourselves. Hope you don't mind." I minded a lot. I didn't think it was possible for a person to experience every stage of grief at once. But standing there, watching those kids cannonball into my pool, while Karen lounged on my chair, sipping her smug little coffee, I think I actually blacked out from sheer, unfiltered rage. She had finally done it. She had broken past the absurdity threshold and crashed straight into something biblical. I felt like I was in one of those movies where the protagonist snaps and the screen goes red while a choir of Latin chanting crescendos in the background. I took a slow step forward, hands clenched at my sides, and leveled her with a glare that should have set her skin on fire. "Get out." Karen barely glanced up from her phone. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. They're just kids." One of said just kids, a particularly gremlin-esque child, with no regard for the laws of physics, jumped from the pool's edge, flailing wildly, and landed with a massive splash that sent a wave of chlorinated water crashing onto my patio. I felt my eye twitch. "They are trespassing," I said through gritted teeth. "You are trespassing." Karen made a little amused noise, like I had just said something adorable. "We're neighbors, dear. You really need to stop acting like such a hargrump. You can't just hoard a pool like this. It's not fair to the community." I had to take a deep breath, then another. "I'm going to say this one more time. Get out of my yard. Now." Karen sighed dramatically, finally setting her coffee down as if I was forcing her to be inconvenienced in the slightest. "Wow, I always heard you were difficult," she said, shaking her head. "But this is just childish. You broke into my property." She waved that off like I was being ridiculous. "We didn't break in. Your fence was unlocked. It was locked this morning." She gave me an exaggerated shrug. "Well, maybe you should get a better lock, one that's actually secure. Kids are curious, you know. You can't really blame them for wandering in." Wandering in, wandering in, wandering in. She was talking about this like it was some nature preserve and I was the unreasonable park ranger ruining everyone's fun. "You are insane." I turned, pulling out my phone. "That's it. I'm calling the police." Her entire expression changed so fast, it was almost impressive. 1 second, she was all smirks and fake pleasantries. The next, her lips twisted in sheer outrage, eyes going sharp and venomous. "Oh, don't be ridiculous," she snapped, standing up so fast the chair nearly toppled over. "Are you really about to waste police time over a few kids having fun? That's pathetic." "I'm calling them because you broke into my property," I shouted. "And because I'm done with this insanity," she scoffed. "You would call the cops, wouldn't you?" "God, you people are so..." "Finish that sentence and see what happens, Karen. I don't think I've ever seen a person bite their tongue so fast." There was a tense, crackling silence. The kids had stopped splashing, finally realizing that the free-for-all party was about to end. One of them slowly waded out of the pool, water dripping down his face, as he looked between me and Karen like he wasn't sure if the fun was actually over, or if Karen would somehow pull off another miracle. But no, even she knew she had pushed it too far. Her jaw clenched, her nostrils flared, but she didn't say another word, just turned sharply on her heel and actually whistled, for the kids to follow her, like some kind of off-brand suburban Pied Piper. One by one, the little monsters clambered out of my pool, shaking off water like stray dogs, leaving wet footprints all over my patio. Karen shot me one last death glare before flipping her hair over her shoulder and snapping, "Come on, kids. Clearly, some people don't know how to share." I stood there, frozen, fists clenched so tightly I thought I might actually snap my own fingers. Karen led the herd out through my mysteriously unlocked gate. Just before stepping through, She turned back with one final, petty flourish. "Oh," she added, "I hope you don't mind, but I might have told a few of the other moms that this would be a great place for the kids to hang out this summer. So, expect some company." And then she was gone, like a storm that had raged through, leaving devastation in its wake. I stood there, staring at my now filthy pool, littered with pool noodles and forgotten goggles. I took in the wet towels strewn about like a crime scene. I noticed, with a fresh wave of fury, that my favorite lounge chair was now covered in sticky, half-eaten candy. My hands were shaking. I slowly exhaled through my nose and took a deep, cleansing breath. Okay, fine. If she wanted a war, she would get a war. I spent the next 3 hours completely fortifying my backyard. I installed a brand new combination lock on the fence. I set up motion-activated sprinklers along the perimeter, programmed to go off at full blast if anyone dared step onto my property uninvited. And finally, the crown jewel, I set up my brand new, state-of-the-art security cameras, all perfectly positioned to catch every single second of Karen's next attempt at breaking and entering. The next time she tried anything, she wouldn't just be dealing with an angry neighbor. She'd be dealing with evidence. I sat back in my chair, arms crossed, glaring at my freshly secured yard. Let Karen try to pull another stunt. I was ready, or so I thought, because the next morning, as I stepped out onto my patio with my coffee in hand, feeling victorious, I saw something that nearly made me drop my mug right there on the concrete. A brand new flyer taped to my mailbox. In big, obnoxious Comic Sans font it read, "Community Pool Grand Opening. Come cool off at our wonderful new neighborhood pool. Special swim hours for kids. Free snacks provided. BYOT. Bring your own towel. All thanks to our wonderful, generous host." And at the very bottom, in a flourish of pink glitter pen, was Karen's signature. I stared. My brain short-circuited. I was going to kill her. I was actually going to kill her. I have never been more certain in my life that I was about to commit a crime. The flyer trembled in my hands as I stood frozen in my driveway, my morning coffee cooling rapidly in my other hand, entirely forgotten. I read the words over and over, praying that I was hallucinating, that some cruel trick of the universe had momentarily caused me to lose my grip on reality. But no, it was real. Every absurd, infuriating word. Karen had decided without my knowledge, without my consent, that my private pool was now the community pool. A grand opening? Special swim hours for kids? Free snacks? Provided by whom? Me? I took a slow, measured breath through my nose, trying desperately to keep my blood pressure below aneurysm-inducing levels. But the sheer, unfiltered audacity of it all was too much. This woman was out of her goddamn mind. I stormed back inside, flyer clenched in my fist, and threw it onto the kitchen counter. My laptop was open in seconds, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I accessed the new state-of-the-art security cameras I had installed after the last incident. It took less than 10 seconds to find what I was looking for. There, clear as day on my screen, was Karen, standing in front of my mailbox, pressing a thick stack of these flyers onto every house on my street, at 2 in the morning. Like some kind of suburban cryptid, I watched the footage, in horrified fascination, as she meticulously plastered each mailbox with her lies, adjusting each flyer with the precision of a deranged architect. It was the most dedicated act of psychotic entitlement I'd ever witnessed. And then, I saw it. Right before she left, she marched up to my fence, pulled a tape measure out of her bag, and started measuring my goddamn gate. I was going to kill her. I was going to kill her twice. My phone was in my hand before I even realized it, my fingers moving on instinct. I dialed her number because, yes, of course, I had her number, courtesy of the unfortunate neighborhood group chat she had forced everyone into, and pressed the call button so hard, I thought I might crack the screen. It rang, and rang, and rang, and then, oh hello. Her voice was painfully chipper, as if she hadn't just committed a homeowner's war crime in the dead of night. "Karen, what the hell is this? Oh my," she tittered, as if this was all one big misunderstanding. "You'll have to be more specific, dear. What's got you so worked up this early in the morning?" I nearly bit through my own tongue. "The flyers, Karen. The ones where you're inviting the entire goddamn neighborhood to my pool." Oh, that," she chirped, as if I had just asked about the weather. "Isn't it wonderful? I worked so hard on those. Really put my graphic design skills to use. Do you like the font? I wanted something fun and welcoming, Karen. I cut her off before I actually ruptured something internally. You had no right to do this. My pool is not public property. Oh, don't be so dramatic, she sighed, as if I was the unreasonable one. It's just a little community event. It's good for morale. Think of all the happy families, the children, the laughter. Think of me suing you for trespassing. I snapped. Think of the police arriving when I have a yard full of entitled strangers who think they're allowed to be here because of your insanity. Silence. A beat. And then, you wouldn't. Oh, now she believed in boundaries. Now. Watch me, I growled. I will call the cops so fast they'll break the sound barrier. I will have every single parent in this neighborhood arrested for trespassing when they show up thinking. I agreed to this nonsense. There was another long, crackling silence. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head. Then, finally, she let out a forced little chuckle, the fake kind of laugh that meant she was panicking. All right, she said quickly. No need to be so hostile. I suppose I could tell people it was rescheduled, cancelled. I corrected through gritted teeth. Fine, cancelled. But you know, it's really such a shame, she added with a pointed sigh. I mean, it'd already buy decorations and snacks. I hung up on her mid-sentence. I was not done. Next, I pulled up my neighborhood's online forum, the one she loved to post in, the one where she had likely spread her lies far and wide. And then I started typing. Public announcement. Important notice about Karen's community pool event, dear neighbors. It has come to my attention that someone, Karen, has been distributing flyers claiming that my private pool is available for public use. This is false. This event is not happening. Anyone who attempts to enter my property without permission will be trespassing, and I will not hesitate to involve law enforcement. To clarify, my pool is not public. I do not owe anyone community swim time. No, I will not be providing free snacks. If you show up anyway, you will leave in handcuffs. If you have any questions, please direct them to the person who started this mess in the first place, Karen. Sincerely, a very annoyed homeowner. I hit post. Less than 5 minutes later, the neighborhood chat exploded. Karen tried desperately to backpedal, spinning some excuse about a miscommunication. But it was too late. The damage was done. Everyone knew. And as I sat back in my chair, arms crossed, watching the chaos unfold in real time, I realized something. This wasn't over. Oh no, this was only the beginning. I should have felt victorious. I should have been able to sit back, sip my coffee, and bask in the chaos I had unleashed. But I knew Karen, and Karen wasn't the type to take a loss gracefully. So when my security camera alerted me to movement at 6:12 the next morning, I was already bracing for the worst. I groggily reached for my phone and tapped the notification, expecting, hoping, really, that maybe it was just a stray cat or a delivery truck turning around in my driveway. It wasn't. It was Karen. And she had backup. There they were, standing at the edge of my driveway, in what could only be described as a PTA mafia. Karen in the lead, her arms crossed, sunglasses perched on her nose like some kind of discount Hollywood villain. Behind her stood 3 other neighborhood moms, all clutching their overpriced iced coffees like they were loading up for battle. I swiped to turn on the audio just in time to hear Karen's nasal voice say, "He thinks he can embarrass me? Oh, we'll see about that." I sighed, swung my legs out of bed, and pulled on the first t-shirt I could find. If she wanted another war, she was going to get one. By the time I stepped outside, Karen was already marching up my driveway, her crew trailing behind like an army of entitled geese. I raised an eyebrow, crossing my arms. Karen, to what do I owe this early morning ambush? Oh, don't be dramatic, she scoffed, stopping just short of my porch. We just wanted to have a little chat. I gestured at the 3 women standing behind her, who were glaring at me like I had personally committed war crimes against their families. We? What is this? A parent-teacher conference? Karen's smirk was pure evil. We're here on behalf of the community, the one you so rudely insulted with your little tantrum yesterday. I let out a slow, deliberate breath. You mean the one where I told people not to trespass on my property? Oh, come on. One of the coffee clutchers snapped. It was just a harmless neighborhood event. Harmless? I repeated, incredulous. You mean the unauthorized pool party Karen tried to throw using my private property without my permission? Karen let out an exasperated sigh. Look, I understand that you're territorial, but don't you think it's a little selfish to have such a nice pool and not share? I bought this house. I pay for the maintenance. I own the pool, I said, my voice dangerously calm. So no, Karen, I don't think it's selfish to expect people to respect my goddamn property. Karen turned to her minions with a dramatic sigh, shaking her head as if I were a lost cause. You see, this is exactly what I was talking about. So antisocial, so unwilling to contribute to the community. It's honestly just sad. I laughed, actually laughed, because this woman, this absolute narcissistic menace, was acting like I was the unreasonable one. I leaned against my porch railing, crossing my arms. Let me get this straight. You thought it was a great idea to tell an entire neighborhood that my pool was now your community resource. Then, when I shut it down and publicly humiliated you for it, you decided to double down and show up here, uninvited, at the crack of dawn, to guilt-trip me into letting you win? Karen bristled. It's not about winning. It's about being a good neighbor. Oh, I'll tell you what a good neighbor is, Karen, I shot back, my patience officially incinerated. A good neighbor doesn't break into someone's yard. A good neighbor doesn't invite strangers onto private property. And a good neighbor, sure as hell, doesn't stand in someone's driveway at 6 in the goddamn morning, trying to shame them into letting a pack of entitled brats trash their pool. Karen's face flushed bright red. You are such a miserable, selfish, careful Karen, I warned, my voice low. You're really close to making this my final straw. She glared at me for a long moment. Then, suddenly, her lips curled into that awful smirk again. Oh, and what are you going to do? Call the police? Over a conversation? Go ahead. I'd love to see how that plays out. Her friends snickered, and I saw it, her new game plan. She wanted me to overreact. She wanted to turn this into her being the victim of the mean, aggressive homeowner who just hated kids and hated fun and hated community spirit. I smiled. Fine. I didn't need to call the cops. I had something better. I pulled out my phone, tapped a few buttons and held it up. The screen showed Karen and her squad, standing in my driveway, looking as entitled as humanly possible, live streaming. Karen blinked. What? I grinned. Oh, don't mind me. I just thought the FAH community might want to see this little chut in real time. The color drained from her face. You smile for the camera, ladies. I called out cheerfully, panning my phone over to her furious-looking minions. Tell the world how much you love breaking and entering. We didn't break in, one of them screeched. Oh? I widened my eyes in mock surprise. You mean this isn't an extension of your totally legal, completely ethical trespassing incident from yesterday? My bad. Maybe I should just pull up the security footage from the last time you all showed up here uninvited, Karen snapped. You are such an asshole, and you are now officially trespassing on recorded video, I shot back. So unless you'd love to go viral for getting arrested in your yoga pants, I suggest you get the hell off my property. Karen stood there, fuming, breathing like an enraged bull. Then, finally, she whirled around and stormed off, her army scuttling after her, tossing me death glares over their shoulders. I let out a breath, watching them retreat. One battle won, but I knew this war wasn't over. Not yet. For exactly 36 hours I had peace. No flyers, no early morning ambushes, no shrieking kids throwing themselves into my pool like kamikaze frogs. For 36 glorious hours, I actually believed, hoped, that Karen had finally taken the hint and retreated to her cave of entitlement to lick her wounds. I should have known better, because when I stepped outside that afternoon, fresh coffee in hand, I saw it. A gigantic inflatable water slide in my driveway. Not just a little kiddie slide. No, this was a full-scale monstrosity. Bright neon colors. Our built-in splash pool at the bottom. Blasting pop music from a hidden speaker. And right there, in the middle of my yard, standing next to the contraption like some kind of deranged theme park mascot, was Karen. She turned at the sound of my screen door slamming. Oh good, you're home. I stood there, utterly silent, staring at this absolute nightmare in front of me, waiting for my brain to process what my eyes were telling me. Karen beamed. Isn't it fantastic? I thought, since you were being so stubborn about sharing your pool, I'd bring the fun here instead. Problem solved. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. You put a water slide in my driveway. Karen waved a hand like I was some silly, overreacting child. Oh, don't be dramatic. It's just temporary. It's for the kids. I rented it for the whole weekend. My eye twitched. The whole weekend? I clenched my jaw so hard my molars nearly shattered. Karen, I said, voice dangerously low, you have exactly 1 minute to explain how the hell you got onto my property and set this up before I… Oh, don't be so rude, she snapped, crossing her arms. Your fence wasn't even locked this time, so really, this is on you. Besides, the rental guy was kind enough to set everything up for free after I told him it was for a charity event. I inhaled sharply, trying to remember that murder is still illegal in all 50 states. Karen, let me be very, very clear. This is not a charity event. This is not a community water park. This is my home, my property. And you, yet again, are trespassing. Karen scoffed. Oh, relax. I thought you'd appreciate the compromise. Now you don't even have to open your backyard. We can have all the fun right here. And you won't even have to do anything. I even brought snacks. She gestured to a plastic folding table nearby, covered in juice boxes, cheap store brand chips and… Oh no, 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 no. I strode forward, snatching up one of the containers and staring at it in horror. Karen, are these my snacks? She had the nerve to smile. Oh well, I noticed you had a bunch of them in your garage fridge. And I figured, hey, why let them go to waste? Sharing is caring after all. I saw red. My snacks, my drinks. The supplies I paid for with my own money were now being handed out, like party favors, to a group of screaming children who had started flooding onto my driveway like feral raccoons. Karen stole my food. Karen invited a herd of kids to my property. Karen put a goddamn water park in my driveway. And Karen thought she could just get away with it. I turned my gaze back to her, slow and deliberate. You need to get this thing off my property. Now. Karen laughed. Oh, come on. You are being so dramatic. The kids are having fun. Look, as if on cue, a shrieking child launched himself off the top of the slide, missed the splash pool entirely, and face planted directly onto my lawn. I took a deep, slow breath. If this isn't gone in 30 minutes, I'm calling the cops. Karen's smile instantly vanished. Oh, don't you dare. You wouldn't. Try me. She took a step forward, her eyes narrowing. You know, I really didn't want to escalate this, but if you keep being so selfish, I might have to let the HOA know about that little fence violation I noticed. Would be a real shame if you suddenly started getting fines. I stared at her, utterly dumbfounded. You're blackmailing me? On my own property? Karen smirked. Call it a friendly suggestion. I smiled. Then I turned, pulled out my phone and hit a button. Karen's phone dinged. She frowned, pulling it out of her pocket. What? Oh, I said sweetly. I just sent the HOA an email with all the security footage of you breaking into my property over the last week. I'm sure they'll be thrilled to see all the violations you've been racking up. I tilted my head. Oh, and I also CC'd the police. Karen went pale. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Then, finally, she screeched. You can't do that. I smiled wider. I already did. And if you and this water slide from hell aren't gone in the next 29 minutes, I'll make sure every single parent here gets trespassing notices too. Karen looked ready to explode, but for the first time, she didn't have a comeback. Instead, she turned bright red, spun around, and started barking orders at the rental guy who, up until this moment, had been eating my stolen chips with zero shame. I stood on my porch, arms crossed, as the water slide was deflated, the snack table was packed up, and the feral children were herded off my property like a failed experiment. And when Karen passed me, muttering something about me being a psychopath, I just smiled. See you at the next HOA meeting, Karen. Her entire face twitched. And just like that, she was gone. For now, bye.